best deal on new refrigerators on the Ghanaian market. The prices under the scheme have been drastically reduced for a limited period, and government is providing funds to make the acquisition of fridges affordable. New refrigerating appliances under the scheme could be purchased for as low as 180 Ghana cedis to 800 Ghana cedis after the discount is applied. The discounts offered on the refrigerators depend on the energy efficiency star rating on the refrigerator. Refrigerators marked 2 stars attract a discount of 150 Ghana cedis, while refrigerators with 3 stars have above 200 Ghana cedis discount. Dr. Alfred Ofosu-Ahenkora, the Executive Secretary of the Energy Commission, said they expect the scheme to follow the success story of the energy-efficient light bulbs, the CFLs. The implementation of this initiative resulted in electricity demand savings of over 124 megawatts and energy cost savings of over $33 million per annum. All energy-draining refrigerators from the rebate scheme are sent to the City Waste Company Limited for proper disposal. The company has imported specialized equipment just for recovering the banned CSE refrigerant, which is still running in fridges in most homes. These refrigerants are 2,400 times more destructive than carbon dioxide emissions and are also the major cause for the ozone layer depletion. The Executive Secretary said that discussions have started between the Energy Commission, Environmental Protection Agency, CWMCL and Scrap Dealers Association on how to sanitize the scrapping of refrigerators to avoid burning cables and crude methods employed in the scrapping process. With the scheme rolled out nationwide, participating shops in regional capitals will now offer the rebate scheme. Melchem and Robi, both general appliance shops, have joined the scheme, while Appliance Masters and Somovision will continue to run the rebates on their refrigerators. Participation in the scheme by these shops is voluntary, and these companies had to go through a rigorous selection process. EcoBank is a major partner in the scheme. The bank is offering consumer loans to cover payment of the top-up after the discount is applied to the fridges and freezers. On 19 September 2012, the Energy Commission launched the pilot refrigerator rebate and exchange scheme in Accra and its environs. A total of 2,100 refrigerators were exchanged under the pilot scheme. A typical household consumes 3,000 kilowatts of electricity a year and thus spends close to 540 Ghana cedis annually. An efficient refrigerator can drain close to 1,000 kilowatts or 40% of total household energy, costing 216 Ghana cedis. On the other hand, the new refrigerators promoted can consume less than 5 kilowatts per year and can reduce the refrigerator's contribution to household consumption to just 16%. And as such, reducing annual electricity bills due to refrigeration from 216 to just 90 Ghana cedis. An efficient refrigeration appliance can last between 10 and 15 years.
Money for your fridge, or if I say money for your old fridge. With me in the studio is Victor Usu, who is Public Affairs Manager for Energy Commission. Victor, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nana.
Obviously, we've heard the report. Victor, I mean, are these facts, or are they just like nitpicking? Because they sound a bit too good to be true.
It's no fiction. It's a real fact.
That the old fridges are, you know, consuming that much?
Very, very. Very, very. And our estimation is not just out of something that you just pluck from somewhere. It's a scientific analysis well done. In 2006, the Energy Commission commissioned the CSIR, Council for Scientific and Industrial Research Institute, to undertake a study of refrigeration efficiency in Ghana. And the outcome of that research revealed that the national average of refrigerators in Ghana was 1,200 kilowatt-hour in a year. That was really on the high side. And so, yes, it is not something that is, and it's not fiction, it's real, it's a fact, and it's scientific.
So obviously,
even before that, before 2006, the Energy Foundation also had done a study on energy use of appliances in the country. And appliances that were studied included lighting devices, air conditioners, and the refrigerators. And it all pointed to the fact that these items, particularly at that time, it was incandescent filament lamps. then the air conditioners and refrigerators were high energy consuming appliances. So you recall that somewhere along the line in 2007, when we had this energy crisis, the Energy Commission recommended to government, and government accepted to change over the incandescent filament lamps throughout the country to that of compact fluorescent lamps. And like your story said, energy savings of 124 megawatts was realized through that simple effort, let me put it that way, of changing the lighting device that was in use at that time. So all what we're doing at the moment are not just something that we do out of anything, but something that is coming out of scientific research and studies that are being undertaken by very reputable organizations.
The other thing is, it's 100 cedis if you bring your fridge in, or
150 if you bring your old fridge and you buy a 2-star fridge, and it's 200 if you bring your old fridge and you buy a 3-star refrigerator. So it is very important, and it's very important to also understand that we have introduced this concept of standards and labeling into the system. And so with this standards and labeling, the fridges are star rated. The minimum is a 1-star. In Ghana here, ours is 1-star to 5-star. In Europe and other areas, they use A+, A++, B+.
So 5-star is the most efficient?
Is the most efficient.
Okay.
The most efficient. And what that means is that the more stars you have, the more efficient your appliance is. That is, it consumes less energy.
The ban, because we still drive, on the N1, and on the sides of the N1, I still see fridges, and I don't see stars on them. They look like the old energy guzzlers.
Yeah.
So how are we facing it? Are we still importing them and phasing them out at the same time?
Yeah, you see, with the old fridges, the law that prohibited the importation of these old fridges was passed in 2008. That is LI 1932, Legislative Instrument 1932, Energy Efficiency Prohibition of the Importation of Used Fridges. And that law actually did not only ban the importation of used fridges, it also banned the importation of and use and sale of incandescent filament lamps. Okay. That one is outlawed. So these days, when you walk around town or walk around homes, you don't see them because they've been banned. And the same applies to that of ACs, that air conditioners. But with the refrigerators, the law actually gave a moratorium of 2 years for people involved in the business to wind up their business. And even after the 2 years, another period of moratorium was also granted until 2013 June 30th, when the final moratorium of 6 months was granted. And beyond that, all imports coming into the country are seized, they are impounded, and then we send them to the dismantling yards.
If I have an old fridge and I just want to discard of it, do I still get a rebate, maybe 50?
No, if out of your own volition you want to discard your old fridge, that doesn't fall under the rebate scheme. You see, the idea is to get out of the system.
Buy an energy efficient one?
Yeah, buy energy efficient ones. Right. But if you discard your old one and you go for an old one, and it's just like the same story. But we want you to discard your old one and then get a new one. That's why the rebate exchange scheme.
Okay, so what then, then my next question will be, while you are busy, destroying the old fridges, there's also another leeway for people to trade for a certain number of time before they stop trading. So which means all that import that's going to come in eventually would have to come back to you to be destroyed or rebated.
Yeah, essentially, you see, what we tried to do with the prohibition was to prevent these energy consuming appliances from coming into the system. So once we are at one stretch prohibiting importation, then at another stretch we mopping up the ones that are in the system through the rebate exchange scheme. So it's not just a one-way kind of thing that we are doing. Yes, you want to prevent these items from coming into it. But what about those that are in the system? What do you do with it? That is the reason why the rebate scheme. So it's a two-pronged kind of attack, topping the ones that are coming into the system and then mopping up the ones that are also in the system. So at the end of the day, you can have a clean sheet of new refrigerators being in operation in our various homes.
So as we speak now, you cannot bring used refrigerators?
You cannot. Absolutely, you cannot bring a new fridge, an old fridge into the system.
What if it's a 5-star old fridge?
From where?
Maybe UK, Germany,
No.
Sweden?
You see, one thing with fridges is that fridges are made for climatic zones.
Okay.
We have the SN, that is the very temperate areas like Canada, like Alaska, those areas. The fridges that are manufactured there, they label them climatic class of SN. Or N. You come to mainland Europe, for example, the fridges that are in mainland Europe, Great Britain, Germany, France, and other European countries, they are the N type of refrigerators. That is normal for the temperate climate. And then you have the ST, that is subtropical. That one is like northern part of Africa, right? The Mediterranean areas there. These are the areas that these projects are manufactured to suit the climatic condition. And even the ST might be also quite okay here in Ghana. But at certain times of the year, you also have some kind of temperatures that are very low so that the projects can operate efficiently. And then we have the tropical one, the ones that are tropicalized. They suit our conditions perfectly. So if you bring an old fridge that is new, that is A++ into Ghana, you are doing us more harm than good. Okay. It is the consumption. Because you see in Europe and elsewhere that we're talking about, the ambient temperatures are very cold. Sometimes, certain parts of the year, winter time, what do you need a fridge for?
The outside temperature is cooler than the fridge.
By all means. So you don't need a fridge of that type, manufactured for that particular conditions in here, where temperatures are sometimes are very high. So even if you are fridge, some people argue that, oh, my fridge is not brought it from Europe, I brought it from America. That is not the issue. The issue is that that kind of fridge that you are bringing from America has been manufactured to suit the climatic conditions in America. So you bring it here, you're going to consume more of our energy. So so see, if you go back home, you just look at the back of your refrigerator. There's a small plate there where the climatic zones are indicated. So if you are afraid that of the S or the SN, and that means that you're digging deep into our power.
So if I'm selling an old fridge, what grace period have I got before I have to get it out of my shop?
Oh, if you yourself want to sell it,
yeah,
you have your own price, you have your own
selling fridge. You know, some of these old ones, yes.
Somebody's old one, you want to sell it. The law actually doesn't prohibit internal sale of these fridges. What we are saying is that we don't want you to bring in more. If it is suitable for that place, let them keep it. I don't bring it in here. But if you are inside the system, that is why the exchange rebate scheme is there. So that you take care of your old fridge by exchanging it for a new fridge.
What beats my mind is, you see, and I think it was only a couple of days that I drove up the N1.
Yeah.
And I saw containers that were being offloaded. To be honest with you, I can't confirm if the fridges had just come out of the container, but obviously there were quite a number of them, you know, stashed on the side. And the left side of the road, the right side
prior to the enforcement of the law. We are only enforcing the law in any case. So let's get that right.
Sure.
Now what the Commission is doing is enforcing a law that has been passed by the Sovereign Parliament of Ghana in 2008. Some people get the misconception that the Energy Commission is doing something out of its own evolution or the Energy Commission directives. No, it's a law that has been passed by Parliament, and a lot of thought went into the passage of those pieces of legislation. Right. So before the ban, there was a transitional period. We actually didn't want to hit hard so that people will lose their businesses and all this kind of stuff. So what we did was that there was a transitional period where importers were giving quotas, gradual reduction of the imports, so that they don't come and saturate our market with old fridges. So it is within that period that a lot of people brought in these items. And so if you see some of these things, they are the backlog from the transitional period. I can assure you, and I'm telling you for a fact, that since we started enforcing the ban from, say, the 1st of July, because the grace period ended on the 30th June 2013, we have seized close to 10,000 refrigerators have been seized. Let me say, have been impounded by SEPs, and then the Energy Commission has taken possession of these fridges and sent them to the scrapyard. Can you imagine why these 10,000 fridges, if you had to find their way into homes, the door down on the grid?
Let me take a break here. We'll come back and deal with that issue, and then we'll look at affordability. Because, you know, I may have an old fridge I inherited from my great-grandfather, you know, which I'm running my pure water business with, and it doesn't matter whether they give me 100 cedis or 200 cedis, I just can't afford a new one. Stay tuned.
In the passage of the law, a grace period of 2 years was given to allow importers and dealers to readjust their operations, but many of them have continued to import, even after the expiration of the grace period. According to the Energy Commission, the 5,000 refrigerators that were released by the port authorities for destruction were originally concealed in 45 containers classified as personal goods. Deputy Minister of Energy and Petroleum, Abu Jinapo, explains the essence of the ban.
Indeed, refrigerators and air conditions account for about 60% of the consumption at the domestic level. And we believe that with the usage of new refrigerators, those approved by the Energy Commission, we can halve that consumption. And so if you do the mathematics, this can really impact on the consumption, especially at the domestic level. Quite apart from that, these used refrigerators have chemicals that deplete the ozone. They have environmental consequence, and that is why we are determined to stop the importation of used refrigerators.
Minister for Environment, Science and Innovation, Gov't stressed that investigations have already begun to identify the owners of the seized items, who will then be prosecuted.
While the items were coming, they declared them as personal items. That, to me, is fraud. We want to sound a warning that the days of ignorance are gone. And these days, we work together with sector agencies to implement each environmental law. And hopefully together, we'll contribute to the elimination of climate change impacts on the economy, on our lives.
He added that measures are being put in place to ensure that other entry zones are strictly monitored to stop smuggling of the used refrigerators. The impounded refrigerators were sent to the Afenya dismantling site, where they would further be destroyed and parts sold to scrap dealers.
Now we have two dismantling facilities. We have one at Kwabenya and then the prison one. The one at Kwabenya deals with the rebate scheme. Those who send in their own old fridges and are giving new ones. The old ones, we take them to Kwabenya. And the ones that are seized by SEPs at the ports, because of the law we are enforcing, they bring them to this facility. We make sure that we have a tracking system in place where we track what we bring here. Through way bills, through tracking numbers, so we know how much we have brought in here at the end of the day. So the issue of some slipping back into the market.
The Energy Commission in September last year introduced a scheme to encourage consumers to turn in their used refrigerators for new ones at a discount. After a pilot project in Accra, the Commission announced in May 2013 that the scheme will be at all parts of the country.
Well, money for your old fridge, the logistics of destroying about 45,000, 45 containers, full of used fridges declared as personal effects. I mean, that must be some personal fridges that whoever it is needs. So, I mean, these are some of the challenges that you have. So, how are we going to police this?
Yeah, we are very determined to enforce the law, and in so doing, we are also equally determined to police the entry or those that come into the system so that they don't find they don't find their way into our homes. Nana, sometimes it's very important to let people know the real facts. As I mentioned earlier on, 2007, 6 million pieces of compact fluorescent lamps were introduced, and we made a savings of 124 megawatts. That is the equivalent of 1 turbine at Akosombo. Can you imagine if we are not taking that decision, the effect it will have had on the national grid? Assuming at the moment you were still using incandescent lamps in the country, what do you think would have been the situation? You would have been worse off. Right. The same applies to this issue of fridges. You said it often and often that these fridges are high consuming appliances, and that the minister said in what you showed us. Our studies have revealed that about 50%, about 54% of our domestic bills is due to refrigeration. 54%.
Oh.
So if we are able to address this kind of huge chunk of demand on our grid, you go a long way to save the economy.
There are people who have already imported these fridges, or people whose main business was to go and find used fridges and bring them, because there are people who can't afford the rebated fridge, you know, even rebated they can't afford. So what is the commission doing for people like that, whose business it is to go and get cheap fridges for people to use?
Yeah, you see, the commission and its allied agencies, EPA, Ghana Standard Authority, thought over this issue of the business of people who were dealing in the old fridges. So that's the reason why, even in the first instance, the framers of the law gave a moratorium 2 years, later on another 2 years, later on half a year, for them to organize themselves and then get out of that business. And the commission didn't leave them alone. We've been collaborating with them. We actually assisted them to draw a business plan, to shop for investors, to partner them to establish an assembling plant in the country. Apart from that, we've talked to them and we've been able to get them to accept the fact that the business of the oil fridges is gone. It's a closed chapter. So they must move into the importation of new fridges. And very, very, I tell you that they have taken up the challenge. I believe they have made arrangements. Their first consignment will be coming about somewhere in June. Some of these dealers are going to sell the new fridges. And what the Energy Commission will do for them is that we are creating a window for them to sell to first-time buyers of refrigerators.
First-time buyers?
Yeah, first-time buyer. A young man, you come out of school, you've got a job, you hire a room, you want a fridge. You can't participate in the rebate scheme. Why? You don't have an old fridge to go and exchange. But in this instance, we are offering the opportunity to the dealers so that they will sell to the first-time buyers at the rebate discount. So these are some of the things that we are putting in place.
So first-time buyers get more than the usual 100?
They will get a usual. You get a usual. If you buy a 2-star fridge, if the value of the discount is 150, if it's still 150, you get it. If it is 200, you get it. But I can say that you're also thinking of adjusting upwards the value of the discounts.
Richard, let me stay with this, because there are people who will not be able to afford a new fridge, not because they don't want a new fridge, but they
don't have money to buy.
They don't have money to buy the new fridge. So even if you give this 100 cities or this 150,
yeah,
they still don't have enough to buy new,
no,
and,
see,
and they want to buy.
That is where you and I we need to do a lot of education here, because this issue of affordability is overhyped. It's really not affordable using an old fridge. Not affordable in the sense that the operating cost of the old fridge at the end of the year, you pay more. What is the unit price of electricity today? It's about 34 pesos. Right. And if your old fridge is consuming about 1,200 kilowatt hours in a year, you multiply the 34 by 1,200 kilowatt hours, you see how much you are paying for that fridge in a year. So in a year, you are paying more. In a year, if the money that you are spending on bills alone will be enough for you to go and buy a new fridge. So what is the affordability theory? Wherein that the affordability theory comes in. You go and buy an old fridge. And you see, one thing with a lot of our people is that sometimes you don't even want to go to the shops to find out the price of these items. And I tell you, with the participating shops, for example, on Melcom, you have about 23 brands of fridges, and the prices, some of them go for 3 million, some of them 4 million, some of them 5 million. So assuming you go in there and you want to buy a 3-star fridge and you give you a discount of 2 million, and the fridge is 5 million, how are you paying? How much are you paying? You're paying 3 million for it. And at the end of the day, you are making savings in terms of energy cost. So the affordability theory here is false.
It doesn't hold.
It doesn't hold at all.
It's still cheaper to get
it's
the new one.
It's still cheaper to get a new one than go and buy an old one and pay high electricity bills.
So now let's look within ourselves. I mean, as a state, as a people, we have very bad practices when it comes to usage of electricity.
That's a fact. Attitudinal behavior. And the attitude towards the usage of electricity is nothing to write home about. We put on our lights when nobody is in the room. We put on air conditions when nobody is there. And we, at the same time, we also use end-user appliances that are very inefficient. At the end of the day, the quantum of energy that we lose through end-user appliances that are inefficient is about 1/3 of what we produce. Yeah, I tell you this for a fact. And in a situation where demand is growing, 10% to 15%, can you get the money to go and be building plants all around every year when demand is growing from 10 to 15? You cannot. What you got to do, think outside the box, bring in interventions, bring in innovations, and make sure that you cut consumption through conservation practices.
Let me take a second break here, and then when we come back, we'll look into manufacturing and how feasible it is. I mean, how scientific is a fridge anyway? Can't we just make one here and make it more affordable by cutting all the import duties and everything? Stay tuned, we're coming back. Money for your fridge. Literally, if you have an old fridge which is guzzling too much energy, send it away, and we'll go. Victor's going to give us the details exactly where you have to send them to. Yeah. But I'm speaking to Victor Owusu, who's a public affairs manager for Energy Commission. Victor, before we go back to our bad habit towards uses of energy, so if I have a fridge in the house, what then do I do? Where do I take it?
We have participating shops in the program, the scheme, and prominently among them is Melcom.
Any Melcom shop?
Any Melcom shop. Stomovision, Rowi, and then Cool World, our PZ cousins. I mean, one of the groups of PZ cousins. Cool World, they are the participating shops that are engaged in the rebate exchange program. And the process is very simple. Ideally, you can go and window shop, try and see the kind of brand that you want, because you have ranges. The program permits the participant to pick a fridge that is up to the value of 1,000 Ghana cedis. That is 10 million old Ghana cedis. Right. So when you go there, look at the brand, and look at the star rating, and then you look at the star rating, and then the energy consumption, then you can make an informed purchase decision. In the sense that you go to the shops, these yellow stickers on the fridges indicate the star rating, and there's a figure there. If you play the thing, you see that sometimes about 250 kilowatt hours. That 250 there is saying that that fridge for the whole year, ideally using it in very good manner, will consume 250 kilowatt hours in a year. So you can do a quick mathematics. You multiply it by the unit cost of unit price of electricity, and it will tell you that if I buy this fridge at this price, this is how much I'll pay in a whole year, and this is how much I may pay in a month. Right.
So this depends on whichever motor is in the fridge, or it's just cross-board?
It's not across board. It's not the star rating is not across board. If you buy a 5-star fridge, obviously the efficiency there is higher, and that means you consume less energy. Right. The minimum is 500 kilowatt hours in a year. That is a 1-star fridge.
Okay.
Right. That is the minimum that our law permits. Now, you see, apart from even prohibiting the coming into our country of these old fridges, even with the new ones, we have set standards, very rigorous standards. If they don't meet the standards, they won't come in. You know, we've been impounding a lot of them. We have an inspectorate division. They go around the shops to go and verify the authenticity of the new ones that are even coming in. Right. What happens is that before you, as an importer of a new fridge, you will bring the fridge into the system. You go to the Ghana Standard Board Authority, and then you buy the Ghana Standard, and you send it to your producers, principals, abroad, China, UK, whatever, and they will manufacture to suit the Ghanaian standard. So before the fridge comes, that yellow stickers there are already affixed there. If they come and they are not affixed there, they are kept there until we go and then do that test, make sure that it conforms to the Ghanaian standards before we allow you to release it onto the market. And it's not just a matter of getting rid of old fridges, but even with the new ones that are coming in, we are making sure that we are not shortchanged.
Now let's go back to our habits, because that's where the education is much needed.
Yeah.
I mean, what are some of the worst habits we do, and what are we going to do to reduce it?
Yeah. All of us, I say all of us, are guilty of that offense. The majority of our people, they take electricity for granted. But I mean, the time has come for us all to accept the fact that energy is expensive. Today, if you are producing energy with crude, LCO, you must know that the price will not be cheap. So we must all do everything of the way and manner we use electricity in this country. And we are very guilty in our homes, I would say, with respect to the bathroom and the kitchen. From my personal observation, I realize that a lot of bathrooms and kitchens have their lights on when they are not needed. You should put on the light when somebody is going to the bathroom to have a shower or to have a bath. But you go to a lot of homes, as we talk now, you can walk around and see that a lot of houses around here, their bathrooms lights are on.
Well,
kitchen lights are on.
We tell viewers to just double check right now, see if your kitchen lights or if your bathroom lights are on.
I tell you.
And turn them off, because if 1 million of such.
If 1 million of such lights are on at this time, you can imagine the drawdown on the grid. And this is one of the practices that most of us are very guilty. And apart from that also, those of us who use air conditioners in our offices, sometimes you enter an office, nobody is there, and the air conditioner is on. Why? Should it be on when nobody is there? So these are little things that we take for granted, but we have very serious repercussions on our energy usage. So what are you trying to do from the end of the Energy Commission is that we have realized that the best way to correct this attitudinal, should I say, misbehavior, is to start with the kids.
Okay.
To start with the kids. So we're going to come out with a program within the next few weeks where we are going to encourage them to read the meters in their various homes and record.
Okay.
Right. Record the readings. By way of that, you encourage them to make sure that these kind of practices that we, the grown-ups, are very guilty of, our kids will not be found culpable when they grow up like us. And in the long term, medium to long term, we're gonna sort of develop a curriculum for energy conservation to be taught at the school level, particularly from the primary to the GSS levels. So that these kids will grow up with it and we wouldn't have the problem that we are encountering today.
The disposal logistics. You know, people are saying that, oh, when a fridge comes and it looks really nice and clean, then you know somebody will take it away and take it home. They're not going to break it up because you know there is somebody in the neighborhood who hasn't got a fridge. So you know, come and take this one.
You're going to do so at your own peril. You're going to take it. You're going to consume more energy, and you pay for it. So why don't you go and buy a new one? Why don't you take advantage of the rebate scheme and then go and exchange your old fridge for a new one? You see. And we are determined to push this program, not just this year or next year, but at least within the next 2 to 3 years, so that that target of 50,000 can be realized. And when we hit that target, it will have a very significant impact on.
How popular is this scheme now? I mean, are people buying into it?
Yeah, people are buying into it. People are buying into it. And we need to widen the scope of the brands that are available for people to buy. I think that we're also thinking of pushing the threshold to about, say, 22,000 Ghana, so that a lot of people can also do. Initially, we were thinking about the average Ghanaian home, where the fridges, the double door ones and those tabletops were the ones that people actually need in their homes. But there's that class of people also who might need fridges that have bigger volumes and these prices are high. And so we are seriously considering adjusting the threshold from 1,000 to 2,000.
The danger if you don't keep the breaking down as a security is that then what they'll do is, you know, well, just carry one fridge, take it. I mean, that's 150, you know, in your hand. Because if I just walk to the shop today to say, look, I want to buy this fridge, I'm not going to get a rebate. I need to come with an old fridge. Yeah. So therefore, if we've collected all these old fridge and keep them somewhere, somebody could be making a business out of it by saying, look, if you're going to buy a fridge, just call me and I'll give you an old fridge.
You know, but one thing that we also do as an antidote to that is that you go with some identity. So if, Nana, you want to go and exchange your fridge, you go along with an ID, you go along with your electricity bill.
Yeah.
There are two things involved in here. With the ID, at least you know that it's a one-on-one kind of situation. So that you know that it's one man, one fridge. So that you don't take advantage of it and say that you're going to go around and collect other people's old fridges and then come and...
No, what I'm saying is that I can be a contractor. So if you want a fridge, come and get a fridge. If he wants a fridge, come and get a fridge. If he wants a...
And then you come and collect the 150.
No.
You will lose out at the end of the day. Because you won't give, you will not be allowed more than one fridge. You get me?
If I work in the fridge depot, all I do is, if you're going to buy a fridge, come and take an old fridge and go and buy. If Kofi is going to buy his fridge, come and take a fridge, and Kofi goes to buy. Kwabena comes to take a fridge, but then it will be the same fridge that you've already paid for.
No, when you surrender your old fridge, we take details of the fridge that you have surrounded.
Ah, okay.
Right. Okay. There's a serial number, there's a tracking number. There are a lot of
and so that will check those
that
balances.
Also, so at the end of the day, when the participating shops bring all these things to us, we also cross-check and make sure that what they have given to us.
So you have been paid for that fridge already. Okay, thank you very much. Well, if you have an old fridge, it's costing you about 54% of your energy you're using in the house, and clearly you want to get rid of that. But as I say, Victor, well, thank you for the education. And guys, thank you for watching. And as I say, tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again.